Hello and welcome to Jtimes, where we uncover the Kabbalah take on Jewish issues and current events. And with me, as usual, Kabbalist Dr. Laitman. Hello, Dr. Laitman. The topic that we want to cover today is a very sensitive and in many cases painful one. We're talking about assimilation and intermarriages, and perhaps we're talking about the future of, I would say, Judaism outside of Israel, where this is going. The statistics show that over 50%, if we look at the statistics, over 50% of Jews who married last year, presumably it's talking about 2011, married outside the faith, meaning intermarriage, marrying. First of all, this on the face of it, this would seem strange because a person would normally, I would think, choose to marry someone of the same culture, the same mentality, perhaps. And here we have people who were brought up in a certain way, who choose to marry people who were brought up in a different way.
But we are seeing that there are clear reasons for why this happens. On the one hand, we're seeing that they're immersed in the general culture. They are in regular schools. The children have all kinds of hobbies and practices that everyone else does. Vacations, and again, it could be school, university. They're just like the others, and with the others, they don't feel any difference between them and others. And if they feel sometimes a specific relation to them as Jews, then it actually pushes them to marry others and to hide, behind the ones they marry so they won't look as Jews.
To hide behind them? What do you mean?
Yes. Someone who is Jewish, especially men, they may marry a non-Jew, so it's not a problem for them because, first of all, they're together in the same culture. They learn together, maybe in school or in the same university, found each other on vacation in the same places, meaning there's a lot shared between them rather than between this guy and other Jewish ladies. Or it's the same.
But most Jews go to Sunday school.
There's nothing specific.
Well, usually they go to Sunday school, they go to Hebrew school, they celebrate the holidays, the Jewish holidays. They have some kind of connection to their Jewish heritage.
But we're seeing that after all you say, it still doesn't keep them together.
Exactly.
And hold them from doing that. So it seems like that environment is not strong enough, not attractive enough to keep them there. It's clear to them that when they marry a non-Jew, they actually move away from their culture.
Not only that, their children will not be Jewish.
Right. Well, it doesn't matter really Jewish or non-Jewish according to the religion. I'm talking more about the culture and education. That will not be of the Jewish tradition at all. So when they marry non-Jews, their goal is to move even further away from Judaism, meaning that even before they get married, they're already in an environment that doesn't really supports them, keeps them together, and makes them feel good and warm and so on. It doesn't provide them with enough pleasant feelings that keeps them there and that makes them want to keep their future children there as well and have them educated by that environment and so on.
But you're saying more than that. You're saying it's not just that it's okay in their eyes that...
I'm not saying whether it's okay or not okay. I'm just saying that if parents are seeing that their Jewish children are marrying non-Jews, they need to know the reason. And I think the reason is that the environment right now that surrounds their children is already such an environment that pushes them away, that doesn't really keep them in the same style, culture, and tradition of what we call Judaism.
Anti-Semitism is only now beginning to rise. Until now, it wasn't such a big issue, but assimilation was a big issue several years ago already, if not many years ago.
A person, according to what we learn from Kabbalah, a person is fundamentally a will to receive, meaning egoistic. We're all that way. That's our nature. So the question I'm asking is a simple one, just like a regular, psychologist would ask. What do you gain out of staying or leaving Judaism? When I want to keep my children in Judaism, then I have to make sure that the education they get, the habits they get, are all a part of that, because habits become a second nature, and also such values that it'll be harder for them to leave, to escape. Only that way.
That's what you were saying. You were saying before that everything that I was mentioning, the Sunday school and the holidays and all that, you said it was not enough.
It's not enough. It's probably not enough. We're seeing the outcomes. I, God forbid, am not criticizing schools or people at all.
No, I'm talking about statistics, results.
Right. I'm saying according to the stats that we're seeing, what they get from Judaism is not enough to keep them there.
Statistics shows that. Right.
So we have to go back to our sources and think, what is it that we can do for our children?
Right.
In my case, I already have grandchildren.
Yeah.
What can we do in order to keep them Jewish?
In my case, it's children. Okay, what do I do for my son so that he will grow up to be Jewish and will want to stay Jewish and, be a Jew in the full sense of the word?
Well, we don't have a choice. If we want to keep our children as Jews, we have to educate them as such.
Meaning what?
It isn't enough to go to the synagogue on, 1 day of the week, or to just follow a certain ritual. We have to keep them in a Jewish area, first of all. They need to be educated in a Jewish school. They have to learn some Hebrew. They need to be somewhat connected to Israel.
That's why they go to Hebrew school, but it's not enough.
To their, as a second language, but a bit of it at least. They have to also be familiar with the origins, the history, and the Bible to some extent. Of course, it's not just for them, it's something that belongs to the whole of humanity, if you look at it that way, but it still belongs to them more closely. And they have to have some sort of an education that creates an environment that is completely, totally providing a sense that being a Jew is good and great, and like with some sort of as if a national pride. They need to understand that there is something special about it. They need to know what it's really called to be a Jew. Why are you special? What makes you special? Although everyone else may think of you in a bad way, but still there's a certain relation that is special to you. So they need to learn that being Jewish really means bringing light to the nations. What is that role?
Wait, from what you said so far, it sounds to me like you're telling us that we have to observe, to be more observant of the commandments. That's what it sounds like to me.
No, it's not about carrying out the mitzvot. I'm not saying they need to be completely religious, but they need to be more connected to the Jewish culture, the Judaism, as a Jewish home, so to speak. They're not supposed to, go on vacation on all kinds of places and that's it. They need to see Israel as also a place to visit and look at it in a positive way, take some part in that. They need to know about the origin of the soul and how it relates to this. This is all education. And if it's just done, once a week when they go to be in a few hours in a JCC center, it doesn't provide anything. And they also don't feel it at home. At home, the parents must realize that there is there's no reason to later ponder why it happens if their home is different. It's obvious that education is a years-long process, and especially the child looks at his parents, at his environment.
There's still a question here, because
Yes. We see it everywhere, by the way. We see it also among Mormons and all kinds of religious cultures. We see how people are educated in India or Japan. It's not just necessarily related to Jews.
exactly, everyone is becoming less observant. So the trend is still there. And I don't know if people don't want to go back to it. That's the thing. Why are they leaving in the first place?
If they don't want to, then, you can't complain about what's happening. Then why still Jewish people are complaining about this? If you are an Indian and you in India and you live your framework, then maybe it's not so bad. But here, the world still blames you of being a Jew. There's anti-Semitism and so on, and this is a greater push to get rid of your Judaism. There has to be education that answers it as well. Education needs to be twofold in its intensity and power over the child in order to keep him as a Jewish person. I have to provide him with the understanding so that he himself will not be pushed away to move from Judaism,
Right.
to not marry a non-Jew. And it has to be so strong that even after that, he will also maintain his house as a Jewish house, as a Jewish home, and will also provide my grandchildren, his children, with a Jewish culture and lifestyle. So you understand what type of an education I have to provide in order to keep him that way. And if I don't do it myself, and I don't want any of it myself, then how can I demand it from him?
You can't, absolutely. Now I'll ask it from the perspective of the child. Why should I stay Jewish?
I will not ask him.
No. Let's say I'm a youth growing up in the United States, okay?
He won't know how to answer. He'll tell you it's not worthwhile.
Okay, I'm 15 years old. I'm growing up in the United States. I'm going to public school, even to a private school, whatever. Most of my friends are not Jewish. All the good-looking girls are not Jewish. Why would I want to stay Jewish? Why would I want to marry a nice Jewish girl from a nice Jewish home? And what if I'm part of the 50% or more of Jews who intermarry? So what? What's going to happen to me?
I agree with this.
Okay, so what's going to happen to me? Why is it a problem? Why are people considering a problem?
I'm not looking at it as a problem. I'm saying that
Yes, they do, and
that parents are saying that it's a problem. So I wanted to point
now,
at the root of the
so
problem.
my question is, why do they, if they themselves don't keep, are not observant, then why do they consider it a problem?
No, but it's not a matter of the observing the mitzvot. It's not about being religious or not religious. To be religious or to be Jewish are not necessarily the same things, although there is proximity between the two. They can be not religious, but they have to be surrounded in an atmosphere of Judaism, appreciating it. If there's a question about why, then why to even ask who they marry with?
Exactly. My question is from the perspective of the parents. They obviously see it as a problem, otherwise they wouldn't bring it up. But my question is, if the parents are hardly Jewish in their customs, then why really do they see it as a problem? Why not just let their kids go wherever they want, do whatever they want, be whatever they want to be?
The parents still have a psychological issue here.
So it's their problem. Nobody else's.
It's their problem. Yes.
And only theirs.
They thought that by giving their children everything they can in the world, they will obviously stay, the children will obviously stay Jewish, and all of a sudden they feel this concern. But it's not going to help. It's more than 50%. 100%, will just become like that. That's for sure. There is no value in being Jewish in our world if this trend continues this way.
So there won't be any Jews left in the world?
No. There's a different type of management here of this issue that is not just happening by these parents.
No, because, if you have 100% of the children...
When I was a kid, and I felt great anti-Semitism at school, it was perhaps at 4th grade, 5th grade, when I was smaller than that, I didn't even feel. So then I asked, and my parents told me that being Jewish is something very unique, something very special. It's a very special people, very smart, and special qualities they have, and so on. They explained it to me elaborately. And so I had a certain value related to it already. And although I wasn't really able to become more knowledgeable about it, but they tried to do that. And I simply gave my children to a religious type of education, and I see that in some way, for instance, my son, whom I gave to Orthodox education, he got married, and he was touring the world after that education, and he was all around the world and so on, and still he found a Jewish lady to get married with. With my daughters, it was easier. They got a lighter, meaning they got a lighter. It was a lighter education, less strict, and it was felt. Meaning the more the education is closer to the roots, the more it keeps the education, the children in this framework. That's one. Two, if they are already used to all their friends and their environment being in the same kind of culture, and if they feel freedom in this environment and they have some connection to Israel and they go to universities where most people are Jewish and so on, then this is a different story. I do understand that it's, that it's impossible. If he wants to go to the Institute of Massachusetts and the other wants to be in some other place, I understand that it's not always possible. But at least until university, and perhaps in the university, there can be a circle of Jews, but it needs to be a lot more powerful.
I understand. In terms of the State of Israel, the State of Israel considers it very important that the younger generation of Jews remain Jews. They actually invest a lot of money in bringing Jewish youth and young people to Israel. They bring here, they bring young people for 10 days. They travel and they meet young Israelis, and hopefully the idea is to strengthen their roots and their connections to Israel. But apparently...
It will not help.
Exactly, it's not helping. The trend is continuing. So there's something fundamental here that's missing.
You want the true answer?
Okay, yes.
Both the parents and the children and many generations are not even aware of why to be Jewish. Anti-Semitism is what always kept us together, and that's why we remained as Jews, meaning not from the positive side, but from the negative side. We didn't have anywhere to escape our Judaism, because indeed, in our world, when you just look at it, on the surface, there's no justification in being a Jew. Only those who understand the plan of creation, that our world requires correction. And especially now in our time, where we have to deliver the light to the world. That's called being a light of the nations. So specifically right here and now, today, we as Jews must understand what is our goal, which is really a great challenge of explaining to the world what is the global crisis we're getting into and how it's possible to fix it and correct humanity and correct the world and be saved from everything that is now deteriorating and escalating. Things are going to become a lot worse, and all of this is in our hands, in the hands of the Jews, and we have to disclose that and reveal that to the world and deliver it to the world. And this being a light of the people, light of the nations, is the role that we have to actualize now. If we will explain that to our children, along with an explanation of the global crisis and the historical process, what's happening to our people, in what happened in history and what is happening today, and why we are special in this general human framework, then and if we will teach that to our children for years when they are still under our hands, we will reach a state where they will be very devoted to the Jewish nation and the process it went through and the purpose it has to reach and lead the whole of humanity to. They'll feel the greatness of this task.
But we, the parents, don't know it. Otherwise, we would tell it to our kids.
That's why, at least from now on, we have to start an education program in all the channels possible, whether it's TV, radio, everything that reaches Jews in the U.S. and in all the countries. They have to learn about what it really means to be Jewish. What is this mission? What is this vocation that we have in the world? What is the true source of anti-Semitism? What is it that the world expects from us?
So what we need to do now is be educated on what it means to be Jewish.
Exactly. That's exactly why it says, "You shall be a kingdom of priests for me," which means we have to educate and teach, share with the whole of humanity how to come out of the crisis on the one hand and how to come to goodness on the other hand.
Okay. Well, our time is almost up, and it seems to be we started talking about assimilation and why it's happening, and we ended up talking about education.
Because the truth is that education is the primary problem. If the education would correct, they wouldn't be assimilating.
Yes, right. So, and we said that education is the problem, and the problem is that we're not educating our kids to be what they are meant to be, because we ourselves don't know it. So both parents and children have to be educated, right? I think we'll make it the topic of our next conversation, our next show. So thank you very much for being with us on this a bit heavy, but I hope enlightening show. And please be with us next time when we talk about education. Until then, bye.